When Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker landed in theaters in December of 2019, it fell upon the movie-going audience with a resounding thud. It left many to ask themselves if this was the movie that they really waited for. The film was rumored to have been undergoing extensive reshoots, with some outlets reporting that the filming had wrapped only weeks before release, something which director J.J. Abrams seemed to confirm. This led many to speculate that the movie we saw in theaters was not originally the movie they set out to make. Now, new information has surfaced via Twitter from someone claiming to be an inside source that may not only shed light on the film in its original form, but also may confirm what many have suspected for months, that The Rise of Skywalker was reshaped and reformed at the last minute, in a desperate effort to save what little is left of not only the Star Wars legacy, but its commercial viability. In this video, we will first go over the tweets and look at the new information that has come to light. Then we will examine how they line up with what we know regarding The Rise of Skywalker, and what this means for Star Wars and Disney going forward. Before we begin, as usual, we must warn viewers that the information in these tweets cannot be independently verified. As such, it must be treated as rumor and taken with a proverbial grain of salt. With the mandatory health warning out of the way, let's dive into what we have learned. The information was brought to light by Ichibaka via his website Disney Star Wars is Dumb. In the tweets, Twitter user Neon Heartbeat claims to have a friend who works in the film industry. The tweets were then retweeted by Forbes pop culture writer Scott Mendelson, someone who regular viewers of Midnight's Edge should already be familiar with. Mendelson starts by calling these tweets gossip, but acknowledges that they make sense because of Abrams' history of making movies that are well made. Mendelson goes on to say that he's heard the same version of this story from different sources. However, he says that may mean the same narrative is being shopped around. Neon Heartbeat says, had a convo with a friend who works in the film industry who I haven't spoken to since like last November, and boy does he have tea on The Rise of Skywalker. Points of note, he knows a stunt woman who was doubling for Daisy who was still shooting in November. Most of the issues were with the studio demanding reshoots, not JJ or Terrio. Matt Smith was cast as the original villain. This villain was not a clone of Palpatine, but an OC original character, and was cut when Bob Iger demanded to bring Palpatine back because the audience won't understand who this guy is. Every actor hated how the movie turned out. Trevorrow was not told what the plot of The Last Jedi even was when they told him 6 months before the film came out to start working on his script, so he had to rewrite that. Disney was, as we all suspected, paying attention to the negative reactions to The Last Jedi and thought The Rise of Skywalker would fix it. He's also 100% sure that the promised merchandise is all stuff that was licensed and made relating to the first version of the film that was originally signed off on, which is why pretty much all we have are the Knights of Ren, Stormtroopers, and Sith Troopers. The Knights of Ren were supposed to have more backstory, and JJ specifically went to the trouble of casting all the OG stunt guys from the first film, only to have the studio cut their backstories. Pertaining to Ben, he says that the last fight scene was being reworked constantly, and he doesn't think that anyone knows for sure what was supposed to happen to him. He says if anyone is going to drop facts about it, it'll be Terrio. He says Adam Driver is extremely dedicated to his craft and likely won't talk about The Rise of Skywalker to any media. But Oscar Isaac and John Boyega are very glad to be out of the studio-imposed limitations and constant tug-of-war. Also, what they shot for the first version of the film was about 40% scrapped and reshot. So no original version exists, and we won't get it a la Snyder Cut because Disney, unlike Warner Brothers, will never admit they made a mistake with this billion-dollar franchise. And please don't take my comment about Adam, Oscar, and John to mean they aren't as dedicated. They all are, but they were all told they'd be on one specific kind of project and ended up being dragged through the ringer for months. And I think they're fully within their rights to express their dissatisfaction with Disney outright as they please now that their contracts are up. And y'all don't have to believe me if you don't wanna. I have known this man for years and can confirm he has worked on multiple films in the industry firsthand. Just wanted to share his comments, that's all. Although much of the information presented in these tweets cannot be independently verified, there is reason to suspect much of it might be true. As late as November 25th, director Abrams confirmed that they had been shooting right up until at least November 24th, the day before he appeared on Good Morning America, confirming that they had just wrapped shooting the day earlier. This would seem to lend more credence to the idea that Abrams was still shooting the movie right up until the 11th hour. Midnight's Edge has covered the rumor that former Doctor Who actor Matt Smith had at one point been a part of the cast of The Rise of Skywalker. It was widely reported as far back as August of 2018 that Smith had been cast in a key role. In a March 7, 2019 interview with the LA Times, when Smith was asked if he was indeed appearing in The Rise of Skywalker, he gave the cryptic response of, "As far as I can tell, I'm definitely not." By May of 2019, his name had been removed from the cast list on Disney's official UK website. This would seem to line up with Midnight Edge's previous video on Matt Smith's role in The Rise of Skywalker, with the discrepancy being the claim that Smith would be playing an original character, not the son of Mortis from Star Wars Rebels as first reported. Though bringing back Palpatine would seem to contradict earlier reports that it was director Abrams' idea and not Disney CEO Bob Iger. Trevorrow was said to be at odds with Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, as his plans for Episode 9 were alleged to involve Luke Skywalker. With Luke killed off in The Last Jedi, those plans were seemingly thrown into chaos. There is a discrepancy, however, in the timeline of events regarding Colin Trevorrow's script and his departure from Episode 9. It is unlikely that 6 months before release that Colin Trevorrow could not know the plot details of The Last Jedi. Trevorrow's script for Episode 9 is dated days before the death of actress Carrie Fisher, almost a full year before the release of The Last Jedi, and it was in September of 2017 that it was announced he was leaving Episode 9. Conceivably, it could have been 6 months prior to the release of The Last Jedi that Trevorrow decided to leave Episode 9. It should be noted that this is all speculatory, based on the facts we know. The dearth of merchandising for The Rise of Skywalker also supports the idea that whatever products that had been planned ultimately had to be scrapped, as they were based on a previous version of the film that we may never see. A version that would have shed more light on the Knights of Ren with a deeper backstory that now will remain a loose end that will never be resolved. It is entirely plausible that what little merchandise we got was the result of some shared common plot points from an alternate version of the film. Multiple endings for the film were rumored to be shot. At one point, there were suspected to be as many as 6 different climaxes to the film. The final fight scene being reworked aligns with what was reported. After viewing the film, the haphazard nature of the ending seems to indicate that the film's climax may have been written on the fly. In the tweet about Adam Driver noting his reluctance to speak about The Rise of Skywalker, it claims he would not talk to the media about the film. Driver, a former United States Marine, would most likely consider it dishonorable to publicly speak ill of those he works with. However, as Neon Harpy indicates, this hasn't prevented John Boyega or Oscar Isaac to express themselves more openly when it comes to The Rise of Skywalker. With non-disclosure agreements eventually expiring, it would be reasonable to believe that more information is about to surface from Boyega and Isaac and their time on the set of the film. In reference to the tweet regarding 40% of the film being scrapped, this doesn't seem all that far-fetched. In 2017, Kathleen Kennedy fired Phil Lord and Chris Miller, with nearly 3/4 of the film solo a Star Wars story shot and in the can. Director Ron Howard then came aboard and reportedly had to reshoot what was estimated to be 80% of the original footage. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, also underwent extensive reshoots after Tony Gilroy came in at the behest of Kathleen Kennedy as a shadow director to supplant director Gareth Edwards. The Rise of Skywalker should have been a major event in film history, a cultural touchstone reaching its culmination at the conclusion of a 40-year-plus saga. Instead, it became a morass of poorly executed ideas, wrapped in a shroud of mediocrity, satisfying few and being ultimately forgettable. As what seems to be a civil war that rages internally at Disney for the future of Star Wars, those caught in the middle, the fans, are becoming indifferent to the struggles raging in a galaxy far, far away. With The Mandalorian being the first in a new era of Star Wars properties to win back the goodwill of audiences, it would seem that as the war rages for the soul of Star Wars, more of the ugliness of what brought us to this point in history is about to be revealed. As Midnight Edge has covered in previous videos, rumors swirl that the entirety of the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy may be wiped from the Star Wars canon, and with it, the impending exit of Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. This is a development that has been met with excitement from the Star Wars fandom. As with the campaign to release the Snyder Cut, the fandom has been making their voices heard, and Disney, no doubt, is noticing. There is a way that you can make your voice heard and be noticed, and that's by wearing your very own The Last Jedi is Not Canon t-shirt that we've gone ahead and made for you. To complement this, we've also made a Release the Snyder Cut t-shirt as well. You can get your very own as well as other Midnight Edge merchandise in the link provided in the description. Get yours and show Disney that you want your voice to be counted. What do you think about the latest revelations regarding the Rise of Skywalker? Let us know in the comments.